I think we should get started here. Some more people might be filtering in as we speak. But it's a pleasure to get things kicked off. My name is Ben Lightburn. I'm the CEO and also one of the co-founders of Filament Health. As you know, we are an exclusively natural psychedelic drug discovery and extraction technology company. With me here today, I have Ryan Moss, who's our Director of Research and Manufacturing. Sarah Burke and Anna is in the next room coordinating and moderating from our communications department. We're very excited to host you here today virtually, although we are fortunate to be in the office together, just getting used to seeing each other for the first time in person. And I'd like to extend thanks to everyone for joining, to those from our team that are on, and also to the members of our board of directors that have kindly joined. The format for today, I'll give a very short intro, then there will be a video presentation by Ryan, and thereafter what we thought would be most interesting for people would be the Q&A. So we'd like to jump right into a relatively interactive Q&A. We'll start with questions that have been submitted in advance. Thank you very much to those who did. And then we will invite questions from the audience at any time. Feel free to type it into the chat function, use the Q&A functionality in Zoom, which by now everyone should be pretty familiar with, or feel free to raise your hand, and if you dare to speak live and ask your question, Anna will be inviting you up as a presenter. So feel free to type questions at any time. So just a quick recap and intro of Filament. Ryan and I actually previously worked together at a previous company called Mott's Innovation, and Mott's Innovation commercialized a new kind of botanical extraction technology. So we got a lot of experience making GMP extracts for a variety of different markets. And when the psychedelics industry got started, a year or two ago, or whenever the Renaissance started, we noticed a curious thing is that there really weren't that many companies out there with the requisite skills and experience to make a real go at bringing natural psychedelics into the mainstream. It's important to remember that at one point, all these psychedelics were natural, but over time, it's become common practice for companies and academics to synthesize these compounds. And what that means is they recreate them artificially in a lab. But as we know, consumers, people prefer natural products, right? How many people are out there that prefer synthetic caffeine over natural caffeine? That's kind of the sort of cheeky example, but it sort of holds true. We believe that natural psychedelics will be a vital piece of the puzzle in distributing these potentially life-saving medicines, and that if there is not a natural option, that adoption and uptake will be less. And so that's really our core mission here at Filament, is to make natural psychedelics for the first time a viable and legitimate alternative to synthetics. So fast forward to today, where are we? What have we accomplished in furtherance of this mission? Well, we have our facility here. It's a 3,500 square foot manufacturing and research facility. It's where we carry out all of our growing research and extraction for natural psychedelics. We're GMP certified, and I think that really sets us apart from almost any other company in the industry, especially when you combine that with a Health Canada dealer's license, which now allows us to manufacture all controlled natural psychedelic substances. We have an active drug discovery pipeline and program in close collaboration with the University of California, San Francisco. In the near term, we have a phase 1 and a phase 2 trial that are set to begin. The phase 1 trial is actually going to be investigating the effects of a natural compound from the magic mushroom, which has never before been employed in any clinical trial, natural or synthetic. And we think this compound actually has some very good therapeutic benefits compared to psilocybin. So that's something we're very excited about. The phase 2 trial will look at our naturally extracted psilocybin in a clinical population with major depressive disorder, and will innovatively employ the use of ketamine as a control arm. We're very excited to announce a couple of weeks ago our first issued patent on our extraction and standardization technology. And that's very important because more than just being, well, I should say, in addition to just being natural, we feel that we are one of the only companies that will enjoy robust patent protection on its clinical trial candidates. Even you may have heard of a company called Compass Pathways, which does have a patent, but it only pertains to a very specific polymorphic form of synthetic psilocybin. It really doesn't prevent anybody else from manufacturing synthetic psilocybin. In contrast to that, we've identified all of the ways in which it's feasible to extract psilocybin from the magic mushroom, and this patent is the first step in patenting all of those ways. So we think that we, in fact, will enjoy much better patent protection on our candidates than any other company, synthetic or natural. So without further ado, we prepared a short video presentation starring Ryan Moss here, and I'll just call on Anna to launch the video. And while the video is playing, feel free to add questions, which we can return to after the video. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Okay.
Hi, my name is Ryan Moss. I'm the Director of Research at Filament Health. My role at Filament Health is management of the R&D pipeline. I'm also in charge of the manufacturing of psychedelic products here. As we are in a GMP facility, I'm also involved with the regulatory frameworks associated with running such a facility. That includes our controlled substance dealer license, where I'm the QPIC, which is the qualified person in charge. I'm also actively involved with implementation of all of our GMPs here at Filament Health. GMPs stand for Good Manufacturing Practices. They involve accurate record keeping for traceability purposes. They also involve using the right types of materials, checking to make sure that materials that you use are all of food or pharmaceutical grade. This includes all of the input raw materials, all of your extraction solvents, all of your actual equipment used in any portion of the manufacturing process. Ben, our CEO, and I worked together at a company called Matza Innovation. It was a botanical extraction company with a proprietary extraction technology. It was later acquired by the much larger Sensient Technologies. At both of these companies, I led a medium-sized team of engineers and chemists through the full product development cycle. So that included bench scale extractions and true research and development, all the way up to thousands of kilos of biomass extracted per day. I was drawn to working with psychedelics because they're a class of compounds that I've always been drawn to. And I reached a point in my career where I really thought that I could bring all of my manufacturing experience and R&D experience together to ensure that these products are produced in a safe, ethical, and controlled way, which is really the most important aspect of manufacturing in the pharmaceutical industry, is safety and quality. There aren't many botanical extraction experts situated in North America. This is an industry that is mostly centered around India and China with Ayurvedic medicine and traditional Chinese medicine. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in North America. A lot of the products that are manufactured elsewhere in the world are sold here and are very popular here. Other than the cannabis market, though, more recently, extraction itself is not typically done in North America. That kind of sets us apart because me and my colleagues here at Filament Health have over 40 years of experience in this industry and have seen every single type of factory and manufacturing line that produces botanical extracts. I think what interests me most about the psychedelic space right now is I love learning about new plant species and new fungi. So some of the exotic strains of magic mushrooms, for example, that aren't psilocybe focused are really interesting to me. I think that they could contain many different types of compounds that maybe aren't well studied. And the reason that a lot of these things are not well studied is because of a lot of the restrictions put in place in the 1970s. I think there was a lot of good groundwork set down in the 50s and 60s around a lot of these things, but a lot of that research was shut down and and we haven't really been able to benefit from the tens of years that need to go into a lot of these things to make true research breakthroughs. Another thing that really excites me about the research into psychedelic plants today are the analytical tools that we have at our disposal. A lot of these techniques are far more advanced than they were in the 1950s and 1960s, which allows us a lot more resolution and specificity when looking at these compounds. So maybe some compounds that existed in these mushrooms even back then, they simply couldn't see or they couldn't tell that they were there. Whereas in today's world, we can easily see these at a resolution required to actually do research on them. This facility also includes all of the security and regulatory framework required for our controlled substance dealer's license from Health Canada, which, by the way, was also amended on July 28th to include not only just psilocybin and psilocin, but also many other psychedelic substances, which will allow us to expand the amount of products that we can rapidly produce. Before I go too far into our facility and its manufacturing capabilities, I think it's important to note that many of these substances have actually been safely consumed in their raw form for sometimes even thousands of years. So we already know that there's a baseline level of safety surrounding many of these plant and fungi species. The key to our facility here is that we continue that safety and efficacy all the way through the manufacturing process, which is really important considering all of our GMPs that are in place. I think what is special about our lab and our facility is really this streamlined process that we have. I've brought a lot of my experience from my past career in and set this lab up in a way that is very streamlined and allows us to quickly go from a developable opportunity right through to a full pilot production batches, which will allow us to generate stability and formulation data, which is very important and required for any type of clinical trial. Around some of the compounds or extracts of these compounds themselves, a big misconception that I hear is that it's not possible to extract them, or they're not stable, or they make some sticky tar that's not really usable. A lot of these issues are problems that are prevalent in the extraction industry in general, and the industry has also developed a lot of tools to deal with these types of problems. And I will say that we have also solved a lot of these problems with, for example, our psilocybin extracts. We, in fact, have many months of stability of all of our products. We currently produce about 1,500 to 2,500 doses of natural psilocybin per month. Our facility would allow us to expand that to about double with no capital requirements. This amount of psilocybin would supply all clinical trials in North America currently. There's a misconception in this industry that you need a large growing facility or greenhouse in order to supply the immediate clinical trial need. That is a large misconception, as in our 3,500 square foot facility here, we have both our lab area as well as our full propagation area. And as I mentioned, this would allow us to supply all clinical trials in North America. Since listing on the NEO Exchange on June 24th, we've completed 3 GMP batches of our natural proprietary purified mushroom extract. We also have 31 types of mushrooms in some stage of cultivation and propagation. This includes multiple different strains and genera of mushrooms. We also have 5 different plants and fungi species that contain psychoactive compounds that are in some state of production at our facility. We've also developed a formulation of our natural psilocybin extract, which will be used as a microdose. This is very important, as there is no good way for somebody to dose themselves an accurate dosage of using just raw magic mushrooms. Extraction is the only way to give yourself a standardized dose. Something else we're really excited about here at Filament Health is our partnership with the Translational Psychedelic Research Program at UCSF with Dr. Josh Woolley. Dr. Woolley and his team are taking our proprietary natural psilocybin extract through FDA clinical trials. There's been a lot of talk about whether the so-called entourage effect exists in magic mushrooms, and that's a question that we are really excited about researching as well. A lot of our research is focused on obviously these different kinds of mushrooms and different strains of plants and fungi. And a lot of these plants or fungi will create multiple different analogs of the same compound. How those compounds interact with each other is a very big research topic.
No, hang on. Call me when you're ready.
Being able to create extracts with specific ratios of different compounds or different formulations of these different mushrooms is really exciting for us, because it could maybe give us access into maybe a different type of mushroom is more efficacious for a certain property, or maybe we can affect the onset time or the nausea effect with different types of mushrooms or different ratios of different compounds that exist within these mushrooms. I think continued research into the entourage effect and different strains and types of compounds are all very important. It will allow us to potentially create different types of products for different situations, for different types of patients, and that type of thing. Something else that is really important is the continued optimization of our tried and true processes. So this will allow us to get higher yields, faster production times, and that type of thing. That's always important in any manufacturing process.
Okay, over to you, Ben.
Great. Thank you for that informative video, Ryan. Now we're going to move to the Q&A. So again, feel free to add questions in the chat box or through the Q&A functionality, or raise your hand, and Anna will allow you to ask the question live. And while you think of very enlightening and interesting questions to ask, Anna will start us off with some questions that were asked in advance. So thank you for those that did that.
Sounds good. Okay, Ben, how do you intend to defend your position as a natural-only psilocybin company?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's one that is pertinent for both natural and synthetic psychedelic companies, and that's because the compounds are naturally present in nature, and they've been known to science and academia for quite some time. So it's not actually possible to get a patent on the what are called the classical or the Gen 1 psychedelics. You do have companies that are attempting to modify those original compounds classically, those original classical compounds. They're trying to modify them chemically and create analogs. And the primary reason for doing so is to get patentability, but also they will tell you to get various therapeutic effects. The problem with that strategy is, of course, you have no pre-existing safety data of those compounds. You have no traditional use of those compounds. We believe in natural compounds because we know that the natural unmodified compounds already work, right? Many people report self-administration of a wide variety of different psychedelic compounds to great therapeutic success. So how do we protect ourselves? You know, how does a company such as ours get some kind of protection on its clinical trial candidates? Well, what we've done in the lab is we've identified all of the feasible ways in which it's possible to make these kinds of extracts, starting with magic mushrooms, but then quickly proceeding to many other psychoactive species. And we've applied for patent protection on those limited number of methods. So it will become very difficult, if not impossible, for anybody else wishing to make a pharmaceutical grade natural extract of these kinds of substances to make their own kind of preparation. So it's really the protection lies in the method of manufacture rather than trying to get a patent on the compound itself, which isn't possible.
Okay, thank you. Let's try another one. So can you tell me, what is the benefit of natural versus synthetic products?
Well, the main benefit is that people want natural products, right? Like I said in the intro, you know, there's not too many people that are preferring synthetic caffeine. There's not too much demand for synthetic and artificial food colorings. People want natural. And we think that if there's not a natural option, then adoption will be less. And therefore, you know, society stands to benefit less from these substances. In addition, we feel strongly, as Ryan said in his video, that there's a possibility of something called the entourage effect. And the entourage effect is the idea that multiple different elements in a natural extract can work together synergistically to provide a beneficial effect. An example would be like in cannabis, you have THC and CBD, right? The same thing holds true for psychedelic extracts. In magic mushrooms, there's much more than just psilocybin, right? And when you make a magic mushroom extract, you get all of those compounds out. When you synthesize psilocybin, you make only psilocybin. You don't make any of the other compounds that are naturally present in the magic mushroom. Other benefits of natural are lower cost of manufacture. You see synthetic companies charging $5,000 to $10,000 a gram for their synthetic psilocybin. Obviously, that price will come down with large scale, but we are still confident that we'll be able to manufacture for an order of magnitude lower, a lower cost than synthetic suppliers. And of course, that will as well lead to increased adoption. Additionally, with a natural extraction process, we're not using any toxic or harmful chemicals, which you're forced to use with synthetic manufacturing. So that's another reason why we think people might be more willing to accept a natural psychedelic as opposed to a synthetic, is there's a complete absence of these toxic residues and byproducts.
Understood. Okay, thank you. We haven't had any hands raised yet, so I'll give you another question that was submitted in advance. Could you tell me, will you be evolving mescaline?
I'll let Ryan take that one.
Yeah, so we recently released that our license has been amended, which allows us to actually pursue a lot more of these other substances, all natural, of course. So that includes DMT, harmaline, mescaline, and even things like cathinone and salvinorin A. So I can confidently say, yes, we are aggressively pursuing mescaline.
Great.
Not only mescaline, but we'll be planning to have a clinical trial based on ayahuasca in the relatively near term. What's exciting about ayahuasca is that it already is administered as a natural extract, right? The traditional preparation is a sort of what they call a decoction, a simple water extract of various herbs containing DMT and harmaline. We think this is an ideal candidate for to bring our pharmaceutical grade standardization technology, because to date there have been no standardized ayahuasca extracts administered in clinical trials. The other interesting thing about ayahuasca is that it's widely reported to have a very good therapeutic effect for PTSD, alcohol use disorder. So there's a lot of anecdotal evidence and some clinical evidence that we can draw on to advance this candidate forward.
Wow. Okay. Let's have another question that was submitted in advance. Maybe could you tell me about some upcoming catalysts?
Well, the primary upcoming catalyst will probably be the launch of the first ever FDA-approved natural psychedelic clinical trials. We've actually submitted for FDA approval, and we're expecting to hear back in the next month or two. And when we have that authorization, we expect that to be a great catalyst. Not only because they'll be the first natural clinical trials, but also because, as I mentioned before, in the phase 1 trial, we will be administering a compound that's never before been administered in any clinical trial, synthetic or natural. This is a compound that we have very good patent protection around its method of manufacture. In fact, it's commonly believed by the industry and by academia to be unstable. And Ryan and his team have figured out how to not only extract it from the magic mushroom, but create a stable, standardized preparation. And we of course believe that it may have some therapeutic effects when compared to psilocybin in terms of potentially faster onset time, lower side effects, higher peak intensity, that kind of a thing. So those things have us really excited about the future. There's a couple of forms and checkbox we have to fill before that comes to fruition. But you know, as they say, nothing ventured, nothing gained. If it were easy to be a naturally focused company, you know, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah, that's probably true. Okay. I saw a hand go up and then it went down. So I will just ask you one more question, Ben. Oh, here we go. Question in the chat from Dane. How can one purchase your stock in the USA?
That's a good question. At the moment, it's limited only to accounts held at Interactive Brokers. So we encourage those in the United States to go set up an account at Interactive Brokers. However, in September, we are planning to list on the OTC. So at that time, our stock will be, I guess, widely available at pretty much any purchasing platform. So it's one of the things we're actively working on, because obviously we think that there'd be a big market for our shares in the United States.
Okay, thank you. And then Ben, I guess this is a pretty good question for you. It's fairly topical. In under 30 seconds, why should I invest in Filament?
If you believe in the value of natural over synthetic, and you believe in finding what we feel is quite an underpriced stock compared to everything that we have to offer, and of course you think that we're friendly and amenable kinds of characters, then yeah, we would definitely encourage you to invest in Filament and be part of bringing natural psychedelics into the mainstream for the first time.
Very exciting. Okay, we don't have any more questions that have been raised. Do you want to go over anything else, Ben, before we close?
No, if there's no more questions, we'll give everyone their day back, and we'll pause it there. And once again, thank you to everyone for joining this event. We hope to do these on a regular basis, so stay tuned for future events. And thank you everyone for your support of Filament.